Hello everybody, welcome to TCOM 101, Dr. Mike here. Hey, during the pandemic, a lot of people have been staying home, and what are they doing? They're consuming a lot of television, especially all the streaming media. Well, in this video I want to talk about the world of digital television. This is an important change, part of the great digital shift. In the 1990s, we saw the rise of digital TV, and that has changed the world of television, not only for the industry, but also for the consumers. The world of digital TV. Digital TV got a big push back in 1996 when the Federal Communication Commission ordered or mandated the switch to a digital television system in America. And they originally set out a 10-year period for this transition to occur. 10 years. Now it actually took longer. In reality, it took 13 years for the transition period. So, analog over-the-air TV transmission in our country ended in the summer of 2009, about a decade ago. All analog TV ended, and we shifted entirely to digital TV. So, this is a new world of television for consumers, the digital TV set. What is a digital TV? Well, in its simplest sense, digital TV is a smart device. A smart device has computer technology, microchips. So it's a smart device capable of delivering really high quality, movie quality images, high resolution images, and high quality sound, crystal clear digital sound, in addition to other services, applications, and features. Digital TV is really an umbrella term. It's the overarching term that encompasses other forms of digital TV. There's one flavor of digital TV is called high definition TV. Another is called standard definition TV. We've got 4K and 8K TV emerging. Multicasting, internet connectivity, and interactivity are all related to the world of digital TV. Digital TV basically sends the signals over the air as a bit stream, as a stream of zeros and ones, the language of computers. That as opposed to the old-fashioned, continuously varying analog signal. Now, the shift to digital TV is certainly one of the most dramatic advances in television since color TV came to us in the 1950s, but I would argue it's probably the most dramatic advance in the history of TV because digital TV offers so many new features and benefits over the old analog televisions. Digital programming meant that all the analog TVs became obsolete. There were over 250 million of these TV sets, the big tube analog TVs, and each of those TVs contained a lot of e-waste. I've read that the old analog tubes had about 4 pounds of lead in each one. So you got these millions of old analog TVs, and a lot of them are just dumped in landfills, and they still represent a risk to us and a source of toxic metals, especially lead. Well, the first digital TV receivers came out on the market in the late 1990s, and they were pricey. Those receivers cost more than $1,000 each. But of course, over the last couple of decades, the prices have dropped dramatically and are still dropping. You can get a good 4K digital TV today, big screen, for just a few $100s. Oh, public service announcement. I want you to wash your hands, and I want you to wash them a lot. Use a lot of hand sanitizer, and also here's what you might do. Check in with an elderly person, your grandparents, for example. Make sure they're okay. Back to the lecture. Now, digital TV, a whole new world for the TV audience, a whole new kind of TV experience. Why did we shift to digital TV? Because of its advantages. It has so many advantages. Just consider this. Much higher resolution, better picture than the analog TVs could provide. Much better sound. Now we have surround sound, multi-channel surround sound. We get much more, many more channels. We have universes of thousands of channels, greatly expanded channel counts. Multicasting is something we'll talk about, how in the old days a TV station sent out one programming signal. Today they can send out multiple signals from one TV station. Digital TV also gives us more streaming, or what's called video on demand. We get what we want when we want it. Another advantage are the great interactive programming guides that help us locate the content and then record the content that we might want to watch later. Also, because all the new digital TVs have connectivity, we have new levels of interactivity and interactive experiences with the television receivers. Now, today, this will change as we shift to 4K, but right now, most Americans, the highest resolution they can get is something called HDTV, high definition TV. You probably also know this as 1080 TV, 1080 lines of resolution per frame. HDTV provides about 4 times more picture information than the old analog TV. So as a result, we get really unprecedented resolution. Lots of clarity in the images, and also a different frame. It's a wide screen perspective. Aspect ratio refers to the width and the height of a screen. So the aspect ratio for high definition TV is really 16:9. The analog TV had an aspect ratio of 4:3, almost square. The new TVs, the digital TVs, have a rectangular, a wide screen, aspect ratio 16:9. If you don't like 16:9, then how about 1.77:1? That's the aspect ratio. That's the frame through which stories are told today. Just to get a little comparison with the analog TV world, let's look at this chart. NTSC was the National Television Systems Committee. This was the engineers who established the standards for analog TV back in the 1940s. HDTV is one flavor of digital television. So look at the total lines. The old analog standard was 525 lines of resolution. HDTV puts out 1,080 lines of resolution. The more of these lines, the better the picture, the better the resolution. The aspect ratio changes. We go from pretty much a square 4:3 to 16:9, a rectangular format. Maximum pixels. Pixels are picture elements. Those are the little dots that make up the screen. Of course, the more of these, the higher the resolution. The old analog TVs had about 300,000 pixels per frame. HDTV, the pixel count goes up to 2.1 million. And 4 and 8K, you have even more pixels. They're hyperpixelated. What about audio? In the old analog world, the best we could have was mono or stereo, 1 or 2 channels of sound. But in the digital TV world, we get multiple channels of sound, multi-channel surround sound, 5 or more channels of sound. So, digital TV is not kind to everybody, especially aging celebrities. It's kind of an enemy. Why? Because it's HDTV and 4K and 8K are so clear that every imperfection shows up, every wrinkle, every blemish. So it's really kind of an enemy, especially to us older people. But technology to the rescue. Some professional camera operators use a feature called the skin detail on their lens. What this is about is adjusting the focus so that the flesh-colored tones get blurred, but the rest of the picture remains in super sharp focus, and this helps aging celebrities look a little bit better. Another way it's predicted that HDTV would change the world was in terms of news. Dan Rather, the former CBS anchorman, once predicted that HDTV would change TV news forever. He said viewers would be less removed from the news, less removed from the realities of war, which would hit home in a way like it's never done before. In other words, we would see more detailed gore. Well, Dan is wrong in his prediction, and I'll tell you why. TV news is already sanitized. They don't show us pictures of dead soldiers and car accident and close-ups and gory scenes of shooting victims. TV news is already sanitized. So the realities of war, I don't think, will hit home in a harder way than before, because we still won't see the realities of war. Anyway, here's another advantage of digital. Unlike analog, the digital bit stream can be chopped up into different pieces. So one station can become multiple stations. This is where we talk about standard definition TV. Okay, in addition to HD TV, digital TV also includes something called standard definition TV. It's a lower resolution. It's really based on 480 lines of resolution. 480 lines is the technical standard for SD-TV. So, in addition to sending out an HD TV signal, a TV station could send out several standard definition TV signals. This is something called multicasting. Multicasting. Digital TV allows a digital broadcaster, whether it's radio or TV, to split up its signals, okay, into two or more channels of programming. So these are called sub-channels. A station will have its primary channel, its primary programming service, but then maybe it'll have several sub-channels for the audience as well. So in the old world, the old analog signal was one single television channel. But in the new digital world, a television station can send out multiple digital signals, compressed signals, so up to 6 of them maybe per station. It's really all about bandwidth, folks. Bandwidth is such an important commodity. That's the size of the channel through, or the pipeline through which the data must travel. So TV stations, digital TV stations, are given 6 megahertz of bandwidth or pipeline, and that's not a lot. 6 megahertz is really not a lot of bandwidth for a television station to operate with. In fact, one data-intensive HD channel requires more space than the bandwidth that TV stations are given. But compression to the rescue. MPEG-2 compression technology will allow stations to squeeze a high-definition signal into a narrow amount of bandwidth. It's all about compression, folks. The process of squeezing down large amounts of data, fitting large amounts of data into a smaller space, squeezing it down to make it more efficient. Now, most of the video on digital TV is still compressed using something called MPEG-2. There are other MPEG compression schemes like MPEG-4, which is one that's used very widely on the internet. But as far as over-the-air television, MPEG-2 is still the standard. Now, how does MPEG work? Let's explain this. You know, all video is a series of still images or frames. And when these get looped together, it fools our eyeballs into thinking that there's motion. It's the illusion of motion. And if you look at each frame, you know that most of the information is the same. There are small incremental changes from frame to frame when looped together look like motion. So what the MPEG encoder does, it'll focus on that portion of the frame where the information is actually changed, and it will remove most of the other information because it's redundant. Most of the information from frame to frame is redundant. So a lot of compression is really about removing redundancy. So MPEG is still the standard for over-the-air digital TV, direct TV, satellite television, digital video disc. All of them use the MPEG-2 compression standard. So MPEG-2 will allow a broadcaster maybe to send out one high definition and then several other standard definition channels within a limited amount of bandwidth. And this is happening all across the country. For example, think of the over-the-air station, Channel 13, WTHR in Indianapolis. It sends out 3 different programming streams at the same time. It's got 13.1, the main channel, but it also carries 2 sub-channels, one that deals with old reruns of situation comedies and drama, okay? The sub-channels. The thing to remember is almost nobody's watching the sub-channels, mostly because cable television is not required to carry the sub-channels, only the station's primary channel. Let's look at Channel 6 in Indianapolis, the ABC affiliate, WRTV. They are sending out a primary signal, 6.1, but also 3 sub-channels. Okay, Grit, which deals with, looks like reruns of westerns. Laugh TV looks like reruns of old situation comedies. And Escape TV looks like dramas, police and medical dramas. So the sub-channel idea, but most consumers don't watch these sub-channels. They have very small audiences. Time for another short digression. I don't mean to make fun of a serious situation, but we have to remember to have a sense of humor as we deal through with this national emergency. So don't forget to use hand sanitizer. I don't know if you have to dress up in a hazardous material suit, but certainly encourage you to use a little hand sanitizer if you can get your hands on it. All right, digital TV also gives us better sound, and it involves some advances in digital sound that have been around since the 1970s. It's really all about one company called Dolby Digital. And Dolby kind of has a huge share of the marketplace when it comes to audio that's attached to movies and television. So most of the digital TV broadcast everything with Dolby Digital 5.1 surround sound. This is the great digital sound that we've been listening to in movie theaters and home theater systems for many years now. You know, it's that system that has up to 5 channels of surround sound. And you usually get 3 speakers in the front, the center, the right, and the left, and then 2 speakers in the rear for the surround sound, and then a separate subwoofer to bring up the bass or the low frequencies. And so now when we teach audio, we have to teach them how to record in multi-channel sound and teach students how to create sound design and sound landscapes based on multiple channels of audio. Here's yet another advantage of digital TV. It's going to lead to more interactive TV. Digital television, of course, is the convergence of the television and computers are highly interactive machines and devices. Nobody really knows how we're going to interact with our televisions over the next decade, but I'll tell you, there's potential that TV is never going to be the same again. You know, and I think that the main interface is still going to be the remote control or something like it. Of course, we'll have gesture control and voice control and maybe even a brain-machine interface where we just think and the TVs respond. But for now, I think we'll use the remote control. Now, you'll still be able to just kick back and passively lean back and watch TV. But more and more, we'll be able to customize or personalize or individualize our TV experience and really make it our own. Now, the agreement on a digital TV standard came after kind of a battle between the legacy media, the traditional TV industry, and the computer companies. Both had different ways of assembling a picture, an image, and especially a digital image. There was a series of standards that were established by something called the Advanced Television Standards Committee. This is the modern day counterpart to the old analog age National Television Standards Committee. But a new group of scientists got together and set forth the standards for digital TV. And they didn't pick just one standard. They picked about 16 different standards and said, well, let the marketplace forces decide which standards will be used in America and around the world. Fortunately, these smart TVs are so smart that they can recognize multiple standards for incoming video. Okay. Broadcasters had wanted a method to assemble the pictures called interlaced. Computer makers preferred something called progressive scanning. Both are used today. Interlaced is an odd number of lines, even number of lines, laced together like a zipper. Computer makers love progressive scanning because it is one line at a time, very quickly. And most of us think progressive scanning probably makes a little sharper, a higher resolution picture. So, when you see these numbers and these letters, hopefully you know what they mean now. I and P stand for interlaced versus progressive scanning. And then these numbers indicate the number of lines of resolution. 1080 and 720 actually refer to high definition. If something is delivered 720 lines through 1080, that's high resolution. Anything delivered at 480 lines of resolution is considered standard definition TV, SD TV. So those are some of the numbers that you might encounter when you go to the consumer electronics store. Now there's a bunch of other numbers you'll encounter, especially in the world of 4K and 8K TV, but we'll talk about those numbers next time. That's all for this lecture. Let me remind you, it's time for to change how we deal with the elderly. Instead of saying, okay, boomer, why don't you start asking the elderly if they are okay? Okay? Might be very important to do. Anyway, that's all we have time for in this lecture. Hey, please take care of yourself and each other and be socially responsible out there in the community. And I'll see you again soon. So long, everybody.